Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. Genesis chapter 34. Okay, we got trigger warnings here. We got rape, we got mutilation, we got genocide, just in this one chapter. So, when last we left Jacob and his family, they had just purchased a parcel of land from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father. This becomes important in chapter 34. Because while they're there, something really bad happens. And yeah, you can hear my hesitation. I apologize. Let's get right into the text. Trigger warning's already loaded. Let's go. Now Dinah, the daughter who Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, chief of the country, saw her and took her and lay with her by force. Being strongly drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob, and in love with the maiden, he spoke to the maiden tenderly. So Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as a wife." Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were in the field with cattle, Jacob kept silent until they came home. Then Shechem's father, Hamor, came out to Jacob to speak to him. Meanwhile Jacob's sons, having heard the news, came in from the field. The men were distressed and very angry, because he had committed an outrage in Israel by laying with Jacob's daughter, a thing not to be done. And Hamor spoke with them, saying, "My son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You will dwell among us, and the land will be open before you. Settle, move about, and acquire holdings to it." Then Shechem said to her father and brothers, "Do me this favor, and I will pay whatever you tell me. Ask of me a bride price ever so high as well as gifts, and I will pay what you tell me. Only give me the maiden for a wife." Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor, speaking with guile because he had defiled their sister Dinah, and said to them, "We cannot do this thing to give our sister to a man who is uncircumcised, for that is a disgrace among us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become like us in that every male among you is circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you and take your daughters to ourselves, and we will dwell among you and become as one kindred. But if you will not listen to us and become circumcised, we will take our daughter and go." Their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the youth lost no time in doing the thing, for he wanted Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most respected in his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the public place of their town and spoke to their fellow townsmen, saying, "These people are our friends. Let them settle in the land and move about it, for the land is large enough for them. We will take their daughters to ourselves as wives, and give our daughters to them, but only on the condition will the men agree with us to dwell among us, that all our males will become circumcised as they are circumcised. Their cattle and substance and all their beasts will be ours if we only agree to their terms, so that they will settle among us." All who went out of the gate of this town heeded Hamor and his son Shechem, and all males who came out of the gate of this town were circumcised. On the third day, when they were in pain, Simeon and Levi, two of Jacob's sons, brother of Dinah, each took his sword, and came upon the city unmolested, and slew all the males. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword, took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went away. The other sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and plundered the town, because their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and asses, all that was inside the town and outside, all their wealth, all their children and their wives, all that was in the houses. They took it as captives and booty. Israel said to Simeon and Levi, You have brought trouble on me, making me odious among the inhabitants of this land, the Canaanites and the Pezerites. For my men are few in number, and if they unite against me and attack me, my house will be destroyed. But they answered, should our sister be treated as a whore? Yeah, uncomfortable little chapter. But those don't really go away. They just come in different forms. So, while they're getting friendly with Hamor and Shechem and the citizens of Sukkot, the Shechem decides that he really is fond of Dinah, to the point where he considers abducting her and raping her to be acceptable. The brothers, and she has a lot of brothers, don't take so kindly to this, but they're not stupid. This whole idea of telling them to circumcise themselves and then falling upon them, killing them to a man, does seem pretty brutal at first. But when you realize it came from both sides, it's actually pretty fair. Because Hamor and Shechem are going around, hey, everybody circumcise yourself, and then we're going to have the same flocks as they do. They're going to become just like us. They're going to live with us. It's all going to be one big happy family. We're all going to be rich, etc., etc. So when Simeon and Levi descend on them, as judgmental as they are, it's hard to say they're wrong. I mean, their sister has been defiled, and we don't know how bad it was, but the fact that we know that Shechem was keeping her in his residence, that would piss off anybody. Father, son, brother. I mean, again, these are very, very human emotions that the Bible is dealing with. Somebody takes your sister, your daughter, whatever it is, and holds her away and then comes up and says, yeah, what do you want for a bride price? I'll pay whatever it takes for this little sweet piece of fluff. It's going to piss you off. But it winds up backfiring on them because in the end he loses a girl, he loses his life, he loses his wives, and they lose all their wealth. It's also kind of a justification for moving into this land because the Canaanites, remember, they're the descendants of Cain. They're not supposed to be in this land. And while Abraham and Isaac and Jacob have maintained pretty good relationships with them overall, this goes over the line. There's not a king or queen in ancient history that would have allowed you to do this to their daughter. It's just unheard of. Now, the circumcision thing, I do find this a little bit unusual because it wasn't really a widespread practice in the ancient world. It's kind of like today, some do it, some don't. But these men seem to have heard of it. They didn't require it to be explained. And that's perhaps because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have been going around and they've been speaking about, yeah, we do this to honor our Lord. Like, it's probably not a big secret. No matter what happens, it's an interesting story of cunning overcoming numbers. Remember, last chapter, Jacob has a pretty large household, but he doesn't want to take on 400 soldiers that are with his brother. And here, once again, he's demonstrating he prefers intellect over conflict. He did this to get the blessing out of his father. He didn't beat his older brother up. He took it. When his brother was greedy and wanted to eat soup, Jacob said, yep, give me your birthright. So Jacob is kind of the gambler of the patriarchs. You know, Abraham and Isaac were pretty straightforward in what they wanted, but Jacob is always the one he's trying to not have a conflict of anything, but he's still going to wind up maneuvering his way around things. And that's why he's mad at his sons, is because right until now, he's been playing his cards pretty close to his chest. But with what happened, now other people from Canaan are going to deal suspiciously with him because he said one thing and his sons went out and killed the people that he had to deal with. In the end, it's hard to argue with Simeon and Levi, because they were right. Should our sister be treated like a whore? Exactly. And nobody wants that to happen. Now, the interesting thing is, Levi actually goes on to form the priestly caste in ancient Israel before the split, before everything, when it's all one big happy country. So divine justice is kind of his thing. But later on, before they, well, I forget whether it's before or after they go into Egypt, we'll go into that. Jacob kind of gives them blessings that are backhanded compliments, for lack of better, because he never forgets this incident to his dying day. I'm sure Jacob did not like Dinah being treated the way that she was. I'm sorry, I hate to use the trigger words, that's why I'm saying treatment. But I think he had another plan. His sons freelanced on him. We'll never know what that plan is, because guess what? Simeon and Levi, they took care of the problem. And in a way, even 1,000 years from now, if we become incredibly cultured, we'll still be able to understand that visceral feeling of having somebody in your family treated so horribly, kidnapped, and yeah, having the opportunity to pay that back, you cannot overvalue that. Simeon's tribe becomes lost. The Levites are with us to this day, so we can see that they both have very different fates. Hopefully go through this long enough so that I can start talking about which tribes are lost and which tribes are not. But Levi, since they were serving in the temple and the Judah part of Israel, yeah, they're still with us. Not a lot, but they're still with us. That's enough of this chapter. I like talking about the Bible. It's got a lot of interesting things to it, a lot of nuance and stuff like that. But stuff like this does not make me a very happy person. And yeah, this whole idea of some women are maidens. Dinah is another character in the Bible who is named. She's a woman. She doesn't get any speaking roles. You know, Sarah got speaking roles. Rebecca got speaking roles. Leah got speaking roles. Eve got speaking roles. Dinah, who I'm actually interested in hearing from her, isn't allowed to speak. And it's just used as a thing. She's been talked about, her birth and everything. If you go back and listen, her birth is mentioned. She's talked about hanging out with her brothers. And then this happens. I have to wonder what she was doing to allow herself to be abducted. Now, this is not victim blaming. Don't think I'm taking that. But the brothers were away in the fields. And traditionally, when you're hearing these stories, there's this idea of women drawing water, which means there would have been other women there. And Jacob apparently was there to hear the story from Shechem and his father, Hamor, right away. There was virtually no delay. So why was it nobody saw what Dinah was doing? It would have been nice for somebody to say, hey, you know the guy that you bought the land off? Well, he's stolen one of your daughters. It might have forestalled a lot of this. But something is wrong. And ultimately, we can treat this not as a parable. I don't think there's a lesson to be learned other than watch your daughters, which has been the case ever since day one, as we can see. But also the symbolic idea that a woman is not safe. As a matter of fact, nobody is safe, not even from your brothers. We've seen this idea of discontentment and betrayal between brothers. The happiest brothers that we've seen so far is Abraham taking care of his brother's son, and then maybe Isaac and Ishmael. Their mothers didn't like each other, but they seemed to get along fine. The remaining brothers we have, yeah, that's going to be the focus of the remainder of Genesis until the Exodus, which is about getting out of Egypt. No matter. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. If you would buy one of our books, it would be most appreciated. 99 cents for an ebook, less than a cup of coffee a day. Or one of our hardcover books is less than $10, so that would be less than a cup of coffee of work each week. And the difference is the book will be hanging around forever. Lots of individual books. I write fiction and nonfiction. Something will be right for you. No matter what happens, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a fantastic day.